The worst financial loss I ever had was in silver. I bought $10,000 worth, then the price started dropping like a rock. It was all I could do to sell it at $6,000. So the worst financial loss he ever had was in silver. That is very unfortunate, and we are going to be talking about that and many more things in today's video, because in today's video, we are responding to your comments. That's right, comments that I've gotten on the channel over the last week. We are going to put some of them up on the screen and respond to them right here. So make sure you stick with us if you want to see what my commenters had to say and my response. And additionally, do me a favor and don't forget to subscribe, because we are still continuing to grow and on our way to 150,000 subscribers. All right, let's start off with this first comment. Make sure you don't miss out on your chance to win a full monster box of Silver Eagles by going to our sponsor sdbullion.com/silverseeker and get your entry today. All right, so we're going to start off with this first comment because it's also making up the title of the video and was in the intro, but it's from Stephen Carrier, and he says, "The worst financial loss I ever had was in silver. Bought $10,000 worth and the price started dropping like a rock. It was all I could do to sell it at $6,000. It's unfortunate when you hear things like that, because I believe when you buy a lot of silver like that, if it's your intent for the value to go up and make a lot of money, a lot of the time it's not going to happen. And there's nothing guaranteed in life. Silver can drop just like any other stock, any other investment, any other hedge. There are ebbs and flows, there are ups and downs. And so when you're buying something like silver and gold, I always tell people what I like to do, and of course I'm not a financial advisor, but what I like to do is buy it for the very long term. My personal stack will be there for decades, and hopefully I'll never need it, but it's there if I do. And we're going to talk about that more because I have other comments about that, but I do want to look at Steven's response here, because some other people have chimed in on what happened to him, myself included. As you can see, there were 8 replies there, but he says, this was around 2007, which I believe that timeline's got to be off, because silver didn't hit $40 an ounce in 2007. It was rising. I think it was into the 20s, but it wasn't until around 2010 that it really hit the $40 an ounce range. Anyway, besides that, he said this was around, so he could have been off on the date. He says, a brilliant investor friend of mine convinced me to go to an investment company when silver was at 40, and he was absolutely certain it would go to $200. Shortly thereafter, it was crashing badly. Painful learning experience for me, which again makes me think this was probably 2010. But either way, once again, guys, well, first, unfortunately, you did buy it at the peak there, but this kind of, goes into what I've said in past videos of not buying into the FOMO. So if you're buying silver at $40 an ounce, not because you want it as a hedge against inflation, not because you want to put it aside for decades, but because you think it's going to go to $200 an ounce, unfortunately, that could hurt when it doesn't. And I'm not saying that it will never do that. I don't personally think that, in today's dollars, you're going to see that happen. You could see that happen through the deflation of our currency, the devaluation of our currency, whatever. It would go to $200. But in that scenario, it's not that silver's really worth $200. It's just that now $200 is worth an ounce of silver because the value of the dollar drops so much. But Steven, you're watching silver stacking videos, so it appears that you're still interested in silver. Just if you do get back into it, my advice to you would be to do all the research you can ever do and make sure you are making the decision for the long term, not for the short term. And then obviously don't just listen to one person, me or anybody else. Make sure you get multiple points of data and research before you make that decision to hop back in. I would imagine, since you're watching silver stacking videos, you are interested again though. All right, so on to our next comment. This is spoke while he could. He says, I get the intent, and by the way, this is on the same video. He says, I get the intent of the value of silver, but could silver ever go to zero or a few dollars? Currently, if they want to manipulate it, then yes, they could. Now, the reason he's saying this is in that video, I was talking to Alienated History, and I said, well, you're never going to see silver go to zero. But I'll get into that in a second. He said all it takes is the computer algos by the controllers at present. Honestly, it's been up to $50 just 2 whole times in current history, both times only for a few weeks at most. Is it valuable? Sure. But should people know the honest history and exactly how manipulated it has been for decades? Will the manipulation end? Experts have been pontificating that it would be for many years, decades, such as Bix Weir, Mike Maloney, and many, many others. And I've talked about that as well, and we're going to kind of touch on the back end of that comment here in another comment coming up. But I want to talk to the first comment. So he says that it could actually go to zero. Physical silver, and again, I've already said this, I'm not a financial advisor, and I certainly don't have a crystal ball. I don't know what's actually going to happen. But physical silver is not going to go to zero. And the reason I say that is, let's look at the beginning of the pandemic. We saw silver plummet like $13 an ounce. Nobody, I mean, nobody was selling physical silver at that price. You might have been able to still buy it in the mid 20s or even 30 because nobody was looking at $13 an ounce silver and saying, you know what, I better sell before it goes lower. At least not physical silver. Obviously, paper silver, there were trades probably happening that caused it to drop that low, but that's a perfect example of what I've said before about, the physical silver price and the spot price are totally different. The silver price went so low so quickly that nobody was going to sell it anywhere close to that. And as a result, you saw the premiums probably the highest they've ever been. I mean, you probably couldn't find a round less than like $28 an ounce when silver was trading for 13 on the COMEX for a round. That's crazy. So yes, maybe on paper it could go to zero, but nobody's ever going to sell their physical silver for, well, give it away at zero, but for $1 or $2 an ounce. It's just not going to happen again. So yeah, again, paper, sure. Otherwise, no. All right, so let's keep on going. This one is from an old video of mine. It's like 7 months old. If you guys haven't seen this video yet, link in the description. Make sure you watch it. We are almost 1 million views on that video, and I do not have a long form video that's at 1 million views yet, so that would be really cool if it got there. It's at like 960,000 as I record this. But he posted this video just like an hour or two ago at the time I'm recording this, and he goes, and this is why I don't understand gold and silver investment. There's no legitimate and regulated trade market. And the insurance claim, I don't get that. This isn't insurance. It's for when things go sideways. Ammo, tampons, TP are all better bartering tools. And I've said in many videos that I agree. I don't think that silver and gold are going to be very important at first. If we really do see a societal collapse, or if we really do see our dollar just flatten out completely and no one wants it anymore, and even in the US, yes, all that stuff is going to be way more important as the survival skills land. There's just so many different things that are going to be way more important than gold and silver. Gold and silver in that scenario are really going to be more traded, months or even a year, or who knows, whatever the timeline will be, down the line when the dust settles, when the smoke clears, and there has to be some sort of trade and barter system in place. I've said many a times about how, you might have something that someone needs, but they don't have anything that you need. But you could take their gold and silver and then use it to get what you need, which is exactly how money works today. It's exactly how our dollars work today. You work to get money. You use that money to buy something that you need, because the person that has what you need doesn't need your labor. Somebody else does. So you get the idea. And that's a very easy layman's term. It gets much more complicated than that. But if you were to chop it up and just say, look, here's how I can explain it in 5 seconds, that's basically what it is. So yes, I do believe that there are things that are more important, but I disagree with you saying it's not insurance. It absolutely is for scenarios like that. And once again, I have said many a times, I hope I never even need it. All right, so our next comment, this one comes from Don't Do It, and this was a video about going FOMO into gold and silver. We kind of touched on that. I said I would bring it up more. Israel Riules, if I pronounced that incorrectly, I'm so sorry, not trying to do so. He says, the US dollar is pretty much done. The petrodollar is dwindling fast. No one is being paranoid. It's just what's happening. Here's the problem with that. And someone kind of hinted on it in a couple of comments ago in this video. That has been being said for decades. My dad was talking to people about that very same thing when I was a kid and going to coin shows with him. I mean, don't get me wrong. I'm not saying that it's never going to happen. All I'm saying is that, doing something foolish like taking all of your money and putting it in gold or silver because you believe tomorrow the dollar is not going to be worth anything is crazy, because you need that emergency fund. You need to be able to pay your bills. Something might happen, a car wreck, illness, whatever it may be, that you need money. And being forced to sell your silver at a loss like this guy because it happened at an inopportune time when silver was worth less than what you paid for it is not a position you want to be in. So having that cash aside for that reason is very important. That said, again, I'm not saying that silver and gold are not important. I very much believe in silver and gold, and I very much think that, again, my personal opinion, that everybody should stack gold and silver. But going crazy and putting every dollar into it for something that people have been saying for decades is going to happen, even if there's more and more things pointing towards it now than there were back then. The dollar isn't going anywhere tomorrow. So make sure you're prepared for something that can happen to you tomorrow, because it's much more likely you're going to have something happen to you in your personal life that you need cash for before that unfortunate time that you believe is coming actually comes. All right, next up, this one, same video, comes from James1089. He says, I think the problem is that precious metals are such a niche market on YouTube that there is a large percentage of viewers that think that the collapse is coming soon. We just spoke to that in the last comment. Content creators can feel obligated to speak to those people if they want to grow their audience. That makes a lot of sense, and I've thought that before, because there's a lot of videos I could do that are like, oh my gosh, the world's gonna blow up, and it would get viewers that I don't normally have on my channels because I try and be more down to earth. And so I get it. I could probably grow my channel faster if I did that a lot, but it's just not something I'm interested in doing. I like to give you guys what I really do believe, not just what you want to hear. And, there are videos where, my dislikes, I get a lot of dislikes because I said something that I believe, but you didn't necessarily want to hear, and that's fine. I'm going to still continue to tell you what I believe. Whether or not you like it is basically irrelevant, but I'm not gonna make a video about, doom and gloom, the world's gonna blow up just because I think it's gonna get more clicks. I'm not gonna do it. All right, and here we go. This is our last one for today. And this comes from Stuart. This was 5 days ago on that video. He says, I rather stack bullion and keeping a lot of cash around that is worth less and less and is paper money. Not good if there is a fire. That's true. You don't want to, if your house burns down, your silver may melt, but it's still going to be silver at the end of the day. Now, this is the part that I used that I actually screenshotted this comment for, and I really like this. He says, bullion helps me save long term because I'm not tempted to spend it like paper cash. Cash is like having food ready to eat in the fridge as opposed to bullion like food frozen solid in a deep freezer in the basement. It takes a lot of effort to prepare it and eat it. I'm going to tell you a story about that, and this is why, again, I screenshotted this comment. I actually had a friend who would buy silver, 1 ounce rounds, whatever. He would literally he had a lot of fish. He would put them in the bottom of his fish tanks. Tanks is plural. He had multiple fish tanks. But, the reason he did the fish tanks really doesn't have anything to do with silver. He just said that, look, if someone breaks into my house, they're probably not going to look into the fish tank. And it's funny, I knew a guy who had a 100-ounce silver bar that he put in a box, and then he wrapped the box with tape, and he used to use that as his doorstop. And for that same reason that, my friend put his silver in his fish tank, he said that if someone breaks into my house, they're not going to be looking in my fish tank for my silver, just like the guy's like, yeah, no one's going to take my, my little doorstop there unless they know it's silver. So he probably shouldn't have been telling me, but, I'm not going to do that. Maybe a little bit too much trust. If you tell too many people, someone's going to find out and they're just going to take it. But you get the point. Anyway, the reason that my friend put his silver in his fish tank, the reason he even bought silver, he didn't buy it as an investment. He didn't buy it as an insurance. He bought it as protection against himself, because he straight up told me if I kept all of that money in cash, I would just spend it at the bar because he liked to go out bar hopping on the weekends. He was a single guy. That's what he did. He had fun, whatever. And he knew that he would not have money left over unless he had silver, because it takes him more effort to take the silver out of his fish tank, take it and sell it, and then spend the cash at a bar, as opposed to just going to the bar, having it on his debit card or cash in his pocket. So there you go, guys. That is our comments for the week. We're going to try and do this more often. I hope that you enjoyed the video and got a little bit of insight into what I think, and I would love to respond to more of your comments. So do me a favor and leave even more comments down below of this one, as well as other videos over the next week, and we'll see. Maybe I'll do it again next week or 2 weeks from now, but we will definitely do this again. Like I said earlier, do me a favor, don't forget to subscribe, and additionally, check out this video above me if you haven't seen it yet. I'm sure it's a great one. Actually, I'm going to make it that $10,000 in gold video and help me get to 1 million. So click it right now and watch it if you haven't done so yet. And other than that, thank you so much for watching. We will see you next time.